My dad didn't even drink. I think I can count on 2 fingers the fucking number of drinks I've ever seen him drink in his entire life.
Do you think that's a good thing?
Yeah, I think so. Oh, I don't know. Because then you have that like analogy too, where like you got a dad that drinks, and then he's got 2 sons, and one of them always drinks because he just sees that's what his dad does, and the other one doesn't drink because he saw what it did to his dad. It's like, which one are you going to be? It's kind of a little bit of a roll of the dice. And it's just up to how those 2 different sons interpret it. Who knows, right?
So if we think about your, say this politely, abuse of alcohol over the years, many nights in which I've witnessed firsthand.
Yeah.
Do you think that your dad not drinking had an influence on you going the complete opposite?
Yeah, perhaps. It'd definitely be a contributing factor, I think. But obviously, the other thing as well is the environment that I was just in. It was just fucking really easy to drink all of the time. It was like literally unlimited. Like I could not run out of alcohol. And we all figured out I did better at my job when I was drinking. And so I literally got rewarded for drinking more.
Just provide a bit of context for those that don't know that part of your formative creation story. Give us the highlight reel of your DJ career and how it led to your proclivity to abuse alcohol.
Yeah. So basically, I got fired from my first job out of high school because I was IT support at like the school I graduated from, Trinity. And then I was DJing a friend's 18th birthday, and a bunch of photos went up because like we just graduated and I was working at the school I just graduated from. And so we were still friends like on Facebook with like the kids that were like a year underneath us. And then some photos went around where I was DJing my friend's birthday party. And I clearly was not sharing the nearly empty bottle of vodka, and I was wearing a shirt that said sex, drugs, dubstep, and all these students, a bunch of them, we took their laptops in to service them, and a bunch of them had it as like their wallpaper on their school laptops.
You're the hero.
Yeah. Yeah. And then anyway, I got sent home. They're like, we need to figure out what we can do with you because like clearly you can't like, it's not your fault, but you can't separate your work and personal life. And then I just ended up like quitting before they could fire me. And that was really kind of the genesis for my entire brand. It was like the villain origin story for this thing. And then anyway, I started playing some clubs, and I just did one thing leads to another thing. And then I was like promotions manager, arcade, nightclub. And so my whole job was just to be the fun party guy that, you know, guys and girls would know. And I'd buy them drinks, we'd party and all this bullshit. And I was like resident DJ at Metropolis Fremantle for, was it 2 or 3 years? I think 3 years. So I was playing the main room to like hundreds of people every Saturday night from like 10 a.m. till whenever I got drunk enough and I told the next person to go on. I think I got paid for 5 hours, but I was playing like 2.
It was quite you had quite the cult following as a DJ.
Yeah.
To the point where I still see stories of people at metros now. I mean, granted, you're the one sharing them, but I see people that go to metros now and they are nostalgic and long for Wilco to DJ again.
Yeah, that naturally happens with a lot of with a lot of DJs. So it's not like that's an isolated event to me. But yeah, I definitely had like a little bit of a cult following, just because of the radical transparency, and you know there was no real bullshit behind it, and it was funny and all this stuff. So it was kind of fun to watch. And yeah, that whole time, obviously, DJs get like free drinks, and mine was, I've said this on so many different podcasts, I get a $250 bar card, which buys 22.5 tequila shots. So I'd get all those shots at the start of the night in cups, stack them up, I'd put them under the DJ booth, and I just do a shot every now and then. And then I also got like a bottle of vodka, 12 double blacks, 6 Red Bulls, and a bowl of orange juice. And I didn't bring really anyone, well, that's not entirely true, but I didn't bring many people on stage, so and I'm an only child, so I'm not sharing this either, right? And so... yeah, we just figured out that like I was just, and the other thing as well is we figured out if I was sober, I wasn't good because I was overthinking it. I was just like thinking about my set too much. But if I was hammered, which I was good and fun to watch as well. And so I would always just get rewarded in my own head for just drinking more. And then you keep raising the bar because your tolerance goes up, right?
Do you think that by drinking that the amount of alcohol, and obviously tolerance is going up every single night, you're doing it a few nights a week or at least once a week, do you think that increasing the bar for you allowed you to, and when you were in drunk, it allowed this kind of flow state for you whilst you're on stage rather than, because you're extremely, for those that don't know Brandon, extremely analytical mind. And I say this with respect, I suspect, which I'd like to dive in more, mildly autistic, and I say that in the best way possible. And do you think that because your mind is always, it's always systems, it's always processing, it's always like, oh, how does this work? Why does that do that? Do you think that by turning the brain off with all that alcohol, it allowed you just to flow and be?
Interesting you bring this up because my sports psychologist just taught me about this last week. So neuroscientists would argue that in the brain, there are two brains. There's the thinking brain and the being brain. The being brain developed first. It's more primitive.
The reptilian side of it.
Yeah. It's much larger as well physically. And the thinking brain, which takes up about the front little bit there. The thinking brain is developed more recently. And it's developed from like the modern society that we're in. It can process 4,000 bits of information, I think, per second. How many bits of information do you think that the being brain can process?
I would say probably...
I think it's about 40 billion.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so what happens is when you're in your thinking brain too much, you only have so much processing power. And when you tap into your being brain, you unlock this seemingly unlimited processing power. And my sports psychologist actually told me, being drunk actually puts you into your being brain more. And that's why people that are trying to learn languages, if they're drunk, they can actually speak them fluently.
Right. That's fascinating.
Because they're not overthinking it.
Of course.
And so when I was drinking heaps, I was always in flow state, and I was being playful too, which is a contributing factor to flow. And so because I was being playful and I was drunk, I was always in a constant flow state. My sets slapped.
I agree. I've seen you play many times, and when you're inebriated, they do slap.
Yeah. But if I was sober, I'm like, fuck, is that going to work? Overthinking it. I remember the first night I was actually the resident there, and then Jeff told me not to drink. He's like, this is very important that you get this right. Like, Jeff being like the booking agent.
Okay, yes.
He's like, don't drink tonight. And then Chris, who was shooting the night, came up with 2 double blacks. She said, Jeff told you to drink these. Because I think Jeff was sitting upstairs or something.
It's like, he is bombing this set.
Yeah. I think I was just like overthinking and I was like too anxious. And then I had those 2 double things. Like, Jeff told me very specifically a lot of times, don't drink on your first night. And then he's like, fucking drink these.
So on the flow thing, so there are a lot of variables that need to happen in order for you to be able to unlock that flow state. And as someone that's obsessed with finding flow in my everyday life and my work, one of the variables in order to unlock the flow is it needs to be a task in which you're somewhat proficient at, but is just outside your area of ability. So it needs to be just a bit harder than what you can do to unlock that. So do you think that by increasing the amount of alcohol every single set that you played, that alcohol was the thing that was helping you achieve that flow state? Ironically, because the more inebriated you get, the bit harder it would get for you to play.
Yeah, now that you asked the question, I think without knowing, I kind of did that. It's not the only thing though. The only thing too is your alcohol tolerance goes up, so it just takes more alcohol to enjoy yourself. But I definitely did kind of. It's funny now you ask. I've realized I definitely did in the moment go, how fucked up could you get and keep going? And I'd have this weird kind of pride in like, you're on your hands and knees and still counted to 4 times and made this song and this song go together. So there was this weird pride with that too, where I was just kind of like prideful that I could just do it really fucked up. So yeah, that's an interesting assessment of like what is it? Skills to challenge balance. Is that what it's called? Yeah.